Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I want to be giving a bit of a thank you to my wonderful community, and I'm going to be giving a reading update for the month of September. Stay tuned. First of all, everyone, I haven't been on booktube for about a week. I've done no reading, nothing. We had a bit of a family crisis, and basically I let people know about that on my community page, and I was just overwhelmed by the absolute love, support and care shown to me by people typing me comments, wishing me well, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really helped us. In particular my wife, and we went through quite a tough time, but we're okay now and I'm back. We're back at home now. We've flown back from Johannesburg, and yeah, so we are going to get on with it now. Okay, so I haven't read nearly as much as I wanted to this month, for obvious reasons, but there are 5 novels that I've got through. There's one I'm still busy with, and there's a couple of more short stories that I want to finish before the end of the month. But yeah, let's start in order of preference with the novels that I finished. First of all, Dean Koontz' Demon Seed. Now this is about a woman, Susan, who basically locks herself up in her house. It's self-imposed isolation, and this house is absolutely state of the art, and it has the most incredible security systems. No one can get in and out without her say, and she's perfectly comfortable living in that house, in her own life. Now this book is about an AI, a super intelligent AI, that basically takes over the property, takes over the house and everything, all this high-tech stuff, with the aim of learning about human emotions. He wants to create a child of sorts that he can experience human emotions, or it can experience human emotions. So what I really liked about this was the premise. It was fantastic, just like that idea, and this poor woman and this AI that is just kind of terrifying. And there are some very scary bits in this particular book. There's some very horrifying parts that I really enjoyed. It's well paced, it's a good story, but there were certain things that really let me down. What I didn't enjoy is the AI. You only see things from the AI perspective, you only hear the AI voice. Apparently there's another edition much earlier when the book came out, where it's you kind of hear Susan's voice, the woman, and you hear the AI's voice. So it creates, I think, a much more well-rounded story. I got sick and tired of hearing this AI. It was repetitive, it would say the same things over and over again, and it just got really irritating, and it took away from the story for me. It's not to say that it was a bad story. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, but yeah, it could have been so much better if it wasn't just for that repetition of this AI constantly saying how, he's sort of coming in peace, or he means no harm, or I can't even remember some of the stuff, but it just goes on and on about it over and over again. Okay, the next book I read, and I've done a full review of this. There's 2 books that I've done a review of already, and I will link them at the back of my video, and that is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Now, I was conflicted about this book. Yeah, it's about an 80s yuppie American who's very wealthy, very self-absorbed, who just happens to be a psychotic killer. That is Patrick Bateman, and the most fascinating thing I found about this novel was to be inside Patrick Bateman's head. A very interesting journey taking with him and seeing his slow descent into, I don't want to give spoilers away. Oh, and by the way, the reviews that I've given on these 2 books, I give a spoiler-free section, I'll give a spoiler section where I discuss the book at more length. So all I'm going to say about this is that it was fascinating seeing the things unfold from being inside Patrick Bateman's head. The thing I didn't like, and the reason I gave it 3 stars, although the more I think about it, it's closer to 4 stars, is just the repetitive nature of the description of the material stuff and the clothing and the music and this and that and what everyone's wearing, and you'll see that in my review. I found it a bit much, and yeah, it was just that whole focus on materialism. I didn't relate so much, but I still found it a very, very interesting novel. And I would really think, if you haven't seen my review, check it out. I give far more detail in terms of the plot, the character, the themes, and yeah, I think you might enjoy it. Obviously, the book is infamous for being very, very graphic, and the violence of a sexual nature is possibly the most disturbing stuff I've ever read. But yeah, I still enjoyed it, and it almost became a part of the story at the end, but it's not for everyone. This book has got so many trigger warnings, including animal cruelty and, as I said, sexual violence and just homophobia, of racism, of classism, you name it, this book's got it. So it's earned a reputation for a reason. That is American Psycho. Okay, next up we got a short story collection. It took me quite a long time to read because I'm not in the habit of reading a short story collection from front to back, but this is by one of my favorite authors, and that is Ray Bradbury, and this is The Golden Apple of the Sun. Golden Apples of the Sun. It's not my favorite collection. I think that would be The Illustrated Man, but this was still magical in its own way. And every single story that he packs into this very short book, I think is about 22 stories, ranges from very good, very weird in the best possible way, to absolutely magical. And some of them are pretty haunting and terrifying. And I just love this book, and I love some of the stories from this book. His prose is, as usual, very just beautiful, exquisite, poetic at times, just completely original if you haven't read Ray Bradbury. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I absolutely love the way that he writes. Now, 2 standouts in this particular collection for me were, number 1, The Foghorn, which is one of the first stories, which is about a lighthouse and sort of foghorn in this lighthouse. It sort of gives its lonely cry out to sea and attracts sort of this ancient sea monster. Now, it doesn't end well, but it is just such a hauntingly beautiful story, and that was really a standout for me. The second one is much more well known. It's actually one of his most popular, famous short stories, and that is The Sound of Thunder. And that is basically about a safari, a futuristic safari, that they go back in time to dinosaur sort of era, prehistoric times, and everything goes wrong because you're not supposed to interfere with the environment at all. You know, they have this special walkway, you're not allowed to leave the walkway, you're not allowed to, everything has to be as it is. And yeah, it was a very interesting story. There are a couple of others that I really, really enjoyed, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But if you haven't read Ray Bradbury yet, give some of these short story collections a try. They're very unique and wonderful and magical, and as I said, weird in the best possible way. That is The Golden Apples of the Sun. Okay, now we're getting to 4 5-star territory right now. Now, this book was a very, very difficult read, and that was The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's a post-apocalyptic story about a father and a boy, and they are basically surviving the most hostile, terrifying, horrible environment ever, and they're working their way across to the ocean, and they have to survive not just the environment, but the most terrible, despicable people. You can no longer call them people. The thing that stands out about the story is that it's just so bleak. It is so bleak, and you have to be in the right mood to read it, to be honest. It's almost nihilistic, You don't get a sense of any hope whatsoever. Out of all the post-apocalyptic books I've read, including The Stand, this one is just, you get a sense of hopelessness. It's sort of like no point in living in this environment. The only thing that pulls you through is the relationship between the man and the boy, the father and the son, and it's almost like you cling to that because there's this love and this desperation and their absolutely willingness to survive and to be there for each other. They've got no one else. And in that way it is a very beautiful story. And I found the prose and the dialogue kind of difficult to get into at first. The prose is deceptively simple, but very powerful nonetheless. And the dialogue between the father and the son and the boy is very short and very sharp, and I don't know, it just pulls you in eventually. I know some critics have said that that is the biggest weakness of the book, that it's terrible, couldn't get into the dialogue or the prose, but I found it fascinating. But to be honest, I really had to put it down lots of times. It was just too dark. It made me kind of feel really dirty and sort of made me despair a little bit for the just humankind. But I finished it, and it is a very powerful read. And the more I think about it, even though I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, the more I think about it now, it's actually a 5-star read, and I'm going to actually revisit it in the future just to see if my feelings have changed about that. That is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Highly recommended. Okay, and the last book that I completed and that I found absolutely gorgeous, 5 stars all the way, was We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And I've done a full review of that. I'll also put that at the end of the video. And yeah, prose is just gorgeous. It just drags you in from the beginning. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because I've done a review. But there's this character, Mary Cat. And you kind of see the story from her eyes, and she's very strange, very weird. It's just you're inside her head, and it's just such an interesting book. And really, it does build up towards the end to kind of sorry, excuse my dog's jumping around, but it does build up a little bit towards the end where things really take off. But it doesn't matter, it's not really plot driven, it's character driven. But it's just such a hauntingly beautiful, but also very unsettling, at times sort of disturbing story. And things change when this cousin comes to visit and sort of makes himself at home. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything more about that. Check out my review. But that is We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Oh, and by the way, this is after reading The Haunting of Hill House and not being overly impressed. Now I want to read that again, just to see if maybe I missed a few things the first time. And I've also heard that The Lottery, a short story, is a famous one of hers. So I'm going to read more by Shirley Jackson in future. Okay, and a book that I'm busy with right now, that I should have read by now, but this week has been chaotic. So this is Legion. This is the sequel to The Exorcist. And at the moment it's reading a little bit more like a crime, mystery, detective story, absolutely horrendous crime, but you can see that there's a lot more going on, and that things are going to change, and that there's a lot more to this crime than meets the eye. That's all I can really say about this right now, but I will give some feedback later on in the week. That's Legion. Okay, I also wanted to take part this week in the Week of Weird, with the hosts, who are they again? Crystal from Fiber Artsy, and then Jason's Weird Reads. I'll link those awesome channels below, but unfortunately haven't been able to do much of that. But I would like to get to 2 shorter stories that are both seen as weird fiction before the end of the weekend. They're shorter, so I should be able to manage, and that is The Great God Pan and The King in Yellow. So I'll get back to you about that. Hopefully I'll finish that this weekend. Next month I'm going to be doing it's ultra spooky, October TBR with lots of ghosts and hauntings and creatures and all sorts of stuff, clowns and circuses. And I'm also going to be putting one or two of the books that I haven't managed to read this month into October. And one of them being, what is it called again, The Black Farm, which is sort of an extreme novel, which I'm going to be reading with my dear friend Bad from her channel Bad is Rad. And I'll link that below as well. Just a super creative channel, just a lovely channel, go and check it out. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a buddy read with her on that one, so you can look forward to that as well. Okay everyone, so that's my video done for today. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm hoping that I can get through a few more books before the end of the week. But tell me what you think. Have you read any of those books? Have you got any other suggestions of books that I can read? Have you read maybe The Lottery? What did you think of it? Just let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, please take care of yourselves. Keep those pages turning, and cheers.